If you're a diabetic determined to have better health and you're still eating meat, dairy, and processed oils, I need you to watch this entire video. Every single one of those foods is working against you. Not because they taste bad, not because they're morally wrong, because they trigger inflammation inside your cells that make it physically harder for insulin to do its job. It doesn't matter how carefully you count your carbs. It doesn't matter how disciplined you are. If you are still eating a high-fat diet, you're fighting an uphill battle every single day. I know this because I fought that battle for decades. And I kept losing ground, no matter how hard I worked, until I understood what was actually causing the problem. It was not managing it, but causing it. The good news, and there is some very good news, is that whole food, plant-based eating can start turning this around in as little as 2 weeks, not months, 2 weeks. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not an opinion. It is 100 years of science that most diabetics have never been shown.
Here is what the research has shown, and for how long it has shown it. 1934, H.P. Hemsworth documents the fat-diabetes connection. In a landmark 1934 study, healthy young men were divided into two groups. One ate a high-fat diet, the other a high-carbohydrate diet. Within just 2 days, the high-fat group showed a dramatic spike in glucose intolerance, with blood sugar levels roughly double those of the high-carbohydrate group. The researchers concluded the higher the fat content of the diet, the higher the blood sugar levels would be. Read that again. 2 days, not 2 months. Blood sugar levels double from fat, not from carbohydrates. This was documented in 1934. The science is not new. The information just never reached you. This finding has been confirmed, expanded, and replicated across decades of modern research. MRI technology now allows scientists to watch the process in real time inside living muscle cells. When fat is infused into a person's bloodstream, insulin resistance develops within just 160 minutes, less than 3 hours. Conversely, when fat is removed from the bloodstream, insulin resistance improves rapidly. This cause and effect relationship has been demonstrated repeatedly across decades of research.
Fat enters the blood. Insulin resistance in 160 minutes, less than 3 hours. That is how quickly dietary fat disrupts insulin function, and that process is happening inside your body every time you eat a high-fat meal. So what is actually happening inside your body? Here is the mechanism, explained simply and completely. Your muscle cells are your body's primary glucose-burning engines. Under normal conditions, insulin unlocks the door to these cells and glucose floods in to be burned as energy. But when fat accumulates inside muscle cells, a condition called intramyocellular lipidosis, it creates toxic byproducts that physically block the insulin signaling process. The program uses a precise analogy for this, and it is worth hearing exactly. Think of insulin as a key and your muscle cell as a lock. Fat inside the cell is like gum jammed into the lock. The key is there, the key is trying to work, but the lock will not open.
Insulin, the key, your cell, the lock, excess fat, gum in the lock. When fat accumulates inside muscle and liver cells, known as intramyocellular fat, it can interfere with how insulin works. This makes it harder for glucose to enter the cell, a process known as insulin resistance. Research suggests that diets high in saturated fats and excess calories, especially from processed foods and some animal products, may contribute to this fat buildup over time. Meat, dairy, and processed foods in excess lead to fat accumulation in cells, reduced insulin sensitivity, higher blood sugar. Here's an important point many people overlook. In early and mid-stage type 2 diabetes, the body often still produces insulin, sometimes even more than normal. The challenge is that the body's cells don't respond to it effectively. That's why focusing only on carbohydrate intake or medication may help manage blood sugar, but addressing overall lifestyle, including diet quality, body fat, and activity, is key to improving insulin sensitivity. So if dietary fat is blocking your insulin, what removes it? A whole food, plant-based, low-fat diet. While a WFPB diet is healthy for everyone, the low-fat piece is especially critical for diabetes reversal. Once the fat clears, insulin starts working again, often within days to weeks. Many people see dramatic blood sugar improvements within the first 2 weeks of a strict low-fat WFPB diet. Remove the fat, cells clear, insulin works again, blood sugar drops. What does that diet look like in practice? The Dominate Diabetes system is built around 4 core food groups that work together to clear intracellular fat and restore insulin sensitivity. 1. Whole grains: brown rice, oats, barley, corn, whole wheat. Slow-burning fuel without the fat that clogs your cells. 2. Legumes: lentils, black beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, among the most powerful blood sugar stabilizers on Earth. 3. Vegetables: leafy greens, cruciferous, root vegetables, anti-inflammatory, unlimited, no calorie counting. 4. Whole fruit: every day, berries, bananas, mangoes, apples, not a treat, food. The fiber changes everything. You may eat freely and abundantly from whole plant foods. There is no calorie counting required on this program. Whole plant foods are high in fiber, which creates lasting fullness and feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. Eat freely. Eat abundantly. Remove the fat. Watch what happens. And what gets removed is just as important as what gets added. Meat, dairy, eggs, and all added oils, including olive oil, which is 100% fat, are eliminated, not reduced. Eliminated. Because for diabetes reversal, partial removal produces partial results. On a high-fat, ketogenic diet, insulin resistance actually increases. As fat in the diet goes up, blood sugar spikes go up too. As fat in the diet goes down, insulin begins to work better and better. Less fat in the diet equals better insulin function. Every time.
All right, I'm going to be direct with you right now because I respect you too much to be anything else. If you watch this entire video and you walk away and eat the same thing for dinner tonight, nothing I said mattered. Information without action is just entertainment, and I'm not an entertainer. You now know that the fat in your diet is physically blocking your insulin. You know now this has been documented for over 100 years. You know now that 2 weeks of change can produce miserable results. So the question is not whether this works. The question is whether you will work it. I spent decades managing this disease the hard way, injecting more insulin, counting every carb, feeling like my body was broken, and there was nothing I could do about it except slow the damage. I was not broken. Even with my type 1 diabetes, my cells were blocked. And the thing blocking them was on my plate. The day I understood that, really understood it, everything changed. Not instantly, but steadily and permanently. You're not broken either. Your body is responding exactly as it should to what it has been given. Change what you give it. Change the outcome. The Dominate Diabetes system walks you through every step. The science, the meals, the weekly plan, over 30 whole food recipes built on exactly what you just learned. 6 weeks of structured guidance with the biology explained so you understand why every choice matters. This is not a diet. This is a system. And systems work when you work them. The link in the description. 2 weeks. Give it 2 honest weeks and see what your monitor says. I'm Stephen Michael Smith. I'll see you on the other side.